Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is Saturday morning, and this is Multifamily Unplugged. So glad that you are here with us. If this is your first time, you're definitely going to want to thank the people who invited you to share or shared this show with you. But we're here every Saturday morning, a great guest, and talking about real estate, investing, talking about multifamily, single family. Wherever you find yourself in the multifamily space, we probably somewhere along the line can or will answer your questions for you. As we go through this morning, if you have questions, drop them in the chat or feel free to DM me or my guest outside the show. And if you're new, we ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. We are always bringing content to you that will make a difference in your life. And, speaking of making a difference, where are you at this year? Here we are at the end of January, and I don't even know anymore how long you go on and say Happy New Year, but I hope that you had a great holiday season and your year is back in full swing and you're off to a good start. When we start talking about intentions and what we're trying to accomplish and our goals, it's easy to set those goals sometimes, but do we have the determination to stay committed to them for the long haul? I love the saying where if you evaluate yourself over a year, you really will find that you have not made as much progress as you like. But if you evaluate yourself over a decade, the progress you make is immense. I'm grateful this morning for my guest, Ginger Faith, who's a 30-year real estate investor. And what's interesting is I'm sure over that time span, she's seen some real changes in the market, in the industry, in investing, in strategies. And we're going to cover a lot of that this morning. She's done just about everything, and some things she's done a real lot of, and we're going to dig into that this morning. So between my history and her history, I am confident we're going to have a lot to talk about. And as I told her before the show, we'll probably wind up in some rabbit hole trying to figure out how to get out. So let me bring Ginger back in. Hey, good morning, Ginger. How are you?
Good morning. Very well. Thank you. And thanks for having me on this morning.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for being here. Hey, I know you're up near San Francisco, Livermore. And one thing about being on the West Coast in January is that the weather is typically pretty nice. And,
yes.
What's it like up by you today?
It's a little bit cloudy and rainy, which is really sweet. I love it because it's been very sunny and beautiful. So I love the change. So still warm though. I don't know what it's going to end up being, but at the morning it's got that nice tulle fog. So it's kind of mysterious early in the morning. So
yeah, it's kind of nice, and then when that fog burns off and the sun's out, it makes it for a very pleasant day. That's for sure. So glad that you're here this morning. Looking forward to our conversation. I think we'll have a lot to talk about. But as we always get started, and I always say I'm going to write a book on one word, right? And because I ask all my guests in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally? And I'd love to hear your answer this morning.
Persistent.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think you've always been persistent in your life, or do you think that's something? Okay. How so? Where'd that first show up for you?
Growing up in a very challenging environment when I was younger, I needed to find answers to what this life was all about. And so I was always looking, and I was on the hunt for what makes a good life, what could get me out of the craziness of my environment, and evaluating and recognizing patterns that work and patterns that don't work. And so as I continued to do that, and I started finding traction in certain areas, then I realized that it would be easy to slip back. And so I started in personal development back in 91, something like that. I was on stage with Tony Robbins back when you could be on stage with him, back in the day, and listening to his tapes, starting to buy property and starting businesses. But I didn't I didn't do it because of my environment. I did it because of learning and being having an unquenchable thirst for figuring this out, for getting out of pain. I think, they say that the pain pushes you until the vision pulls you. Now the vision pulls me, and that's such a better place to be. But at the time, there was so much pain. It was pushing me because there was something in my DNA that wouldn't settle for my environment.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I've probably followed Tony Robbins for all that time also, and I remember when he used to bring people up on stage, and now he comes down in the audience, but
yeah.
he has this knack of really helping you see things differently, even if it's not you that he's talking to, because it kind of is you he's talking to,
He's a master. He's a master psychologist. Yeah.
Talk about somebody who's perfected a gift over the years, Did you ever walk on fire?
Of course.
Oh man, that was the first one.
A couple of times, a few times. Now they allow you to videotape it. Back in the day, you couldn't videotape. You couldn't even take pictures. It was all taboo. I actually crewed. I was one of the people. I was one of the cheerleaders helping thousands of people across the coals at one point, probably about 10 years ago. Rah, 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 you can do it. You can do it. Cool moss, heads up, eyes up, all that stuff, like keeping people focused. So I did that. As a crew member.
Yeah, cool. Good for you. That was, I bet that was a great experience.
Yeah.
So say it again.
Phenomenal. Way to give back, really. Yeah.
He next week, and not to date this, but next week he's doing his free event that he does every year, or has been doing the last few years. And I'm hoping to get some time to be able to listen in. So
yeah.
Always some good stuff to pick up. But why don't you jump in and tell us a little bit about your background and your history and what you're currently working on?
Real simple. My history was I started in business in 1992. I tried a few businesses that didn't work out. I've been an avid reader since I was 8 years old, and that's one of the really keys. Today you can listen to podcasts, but there's something about reading. If somebody has devoted their, so much time and energy to create a book of high quality, there's a lot of garbage out there. But if there's high quality books out there and you can garner wisdom in a few hours of your life that took them 30 years, you can compress time. And so I've been an avid reader. It's a genetic thing. Maybe I was trying to escape my background as a child, but I was reading. And as soon as I got into personal development, found my way to Tony Robbins, of course, and Earl Nightingale and all of them. But there's something about Tony that had struck a chord. And I started starting businesses. They didn't work. And then I found one that worked really, really well. And I started making money, and I was working part-time, full-time income. And I took that money and I put a down payment on my very first multifamily house. And it was just all very organic, like, oh, what can I do here? And what can I do there? It was just a matter of, today, everything is very contrived and like, okay, you have to BRRR method. And I just like, oh, look, I can paint it pretty and people are going to come and rent from me. That's cool. And then, oh, now it's worth more than it did when I bought it. So I'm going to lower the insurance because Lloyd's of London were the only ones to insure this piece of crap that looked like, craziness, but now it looks good. And so I dropped my insurance premium. I'm like, oh, maybe I can do this again because this is pretty cool getting cash flow. I'll take some money out and let me buy another one. It was just very organic. It was just kind of like following the tea leaves without any it was very organic, which I think, really what I could say. Now, I never did big things back then. I didn't think that big. I didn't have anybody around me who even bought apartment buildings. So, I know some of my colleagues of, their first deal was 150 units. I'm like, what? Mine was like 7. So, but I continued to grow. And then right now, I've done many flips, did my first flip in 1996, moved to California, same reason, sunny weather from Boston, sold my portfolio, started again, but the numbers didn't work until 2009. And in 2009, I started buying real estate, and I started flipping it and started keeping some of it, and never enough of it. Like I should have kept more, but I didn't. But I kept it, kept some. And then of course, the prices started skyrocketing here in Silicon Valley. And then now the niche I'm in is luxury home building, because in this area, that's a high level skill that everybody doesn't have. People can, paint something and, hire a contractor to fix some things, but to completely redesign and re-envision a building, that's what we do. We'll take a little squatty 1,200 square foot home in a phenomenal location, on a good sized lot, and we'll blow it up to a 3,500 square foot with vaulted ceilings and, outdoor living and all of this stuff, which takes, a vision, it takes skill. And I do it with my partner now, my business partner. We were working together on and off for several years. We used to do REI meetups in the Bay Area for several years as well. But my business partner, Gary Messeri, and who's a great visionary as well. And I'm also investigating commercial real estate. And so that's what I'm doing right now.
Well, I'm fascinated by the custom home rebuilds, because it's so much different than just doing a normal fix and flip. And I hope people listening this morning get that vision, because there's so many things you can do by adding square footage to a property and positioning what the home looks like on the curb, and how that flows in the neighborhood. And I don't think that that's done enough. And so I commend you for doing that. Can you go through some ideas, like, how much are you buying that 100 square feet for, and what, your repair, what's your construction costs, and then your after repair values?
Well, the last one we did was in a really great location. We bought a 1,500 square feet, and we bought it for $2 million.
Wow.
Which is crazy, right? It's crazy.
Well, think about the people in the Midwest that are listening to this saying 1,500 square feet for $2 million.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's crazy. I mean, it's even crazy to us, and we did it. And we basically demoed the entire thing. It was kind of like an old little squatty building, but it was right in the middle of a phenomenal location, a few minutes from Facebook, Google. And it was completely obsolete from the standpoint, like somebody would have moved in there for $2 million and they would have lived there, but they would have been sad, because they're right in the middle of gorgeous homes, right? So we bought it and we demoed it completely. We left one wall up, or maybe two. Maybe we left the garage up. And then we had to dig in to the foundation according to current seismic code quite a bit. So that was a big fat mess, right? We're digging in and building a deep foundation, because we ended up making 2-story building, and it was a total 3,500 square feet. And it was a stunning building. Absolutely. It was a black and white farmhouse. You walk in and there was an office on the side with these, everything was like with the black windows, black trim windows. And you walk in and you see the backyard from way down the hallway, and you see an open concept. And it was just absolutely gorgeous. And, put the full sod and everything, because this was like high end area. We wanted it to be top notch. And so what ended up happening was we bought it for $2 million, put in about 1.25 in actual construction costs, and we sold it for 4.8.
Wow, awesome.
Now, if we had used our own money, we would have been like real, but we did great. Nobody was crying the blues, it was great. But we used construction money, which was, it was fine. But that was the last one. And right now we're dealing with a lot split. We have 2 houses we're building. We basically have 1.25 acres in a really great location. Again, not quite as great as the other one, but closer to home and very, very good. But prices have continued to rise, and there's compression that's going on, because these areas, they don't have tons of land. and they have high net worth people who live there, and these poor people are sad because they are living in homes that are less than they can afford, but they don't want to go through all the hassle, of having to do it themselves. And so the numbers are this: 1.25 acres split in half. Okay, now you've got the ADU code, which California has become very generous in because they want building. So now we can push up an ADU right up against the lot line, basically with like a 5-foot setback. And so we're building two houses, two 4,500 square feet houses. And one of them was already there and it was completely remodeled, but it was dopey. It was like a dopey floor plan. Somebody would have bought it and lived in it, and they would have been okay with it. But again, this is being reimagined. And you look in there and the ceilings aren't particularly high and the layout is kind of funky monkey. And we're destroying this totally redone house, right? At least half of it. And we're vaulting the ceilings, pushing it back. And it was 2,200 square feet. It's going to be 4,500 plus an ADU.
Wow.
And then we're going to do another 4,500 with a 750 ADU, right? So it's, so that's kind of that. So the numbers, like we paid 2.7, that after all is said and done, we're looking at about a $2.5 million profit after everything. But again, not in the beginning. We're going to be doing the first house. We're not going to get a big profit on the first house. It's going to be once everything's paid, then we get more on the second house.
And how long does it take you to take a 2,200 square foot home and create a 4,500 square foot home?
Yeah, about 13 months, roughly.
So
it could be less, but
what's interesting is, I do large multifamily, and it takes us, 5 years to turn that type of a profit, which you are doing in a lot quicker time frame, which is really interesting. And I want people to grasp that. Sometimes people have patient money, sometimes there's impatient money out there. And for what you're doing, impatient money could be very helpful. Are you in your capital, are you doing bank debt? Is it all construction financing? How are you financing?
It's a split, right? You can't get 100% bank debt. We'd like it, but we couldn't get it, right? So it's strong bank debt, strong construction bank debt. It's construction. There are specific construction lenders, and because we have a track record now, we get really decent rates. And so if you're thinking of doing this, number one, you want to find somebody with a track record, because this is, honestly, luxury home building is a way to go bankrupt if you do it wrong. Right. Let's face it, if you don't know what you're doing, right? But we have a track record at this point. And so the bank is like, okay, you guys know what you're doing. You've got a good team. So they give us pretty cheap money for what we do. And then the rest is our own capital.
And I think
or investor capital.
Yeah. So I think what you said is very important, because, you could go broke doing what you're doing, but I think it's market driven, right? Or area driven, and where you are, you're in an area that will absorb, the absorption for those luxury homes is there.
Exactly.
I have a friend that was doing this in Florida, and he almost did go bankrupt because the market absorption wasn't there for that property, right?
Oh, and then it flipped in Florida. Florida's been hot. My goodness, some of these numbers are bigger than ours. Right. And then once it softens, man, you got to be careful. So yeah, that's why it's tricky.
And I wanted to just circle back. You made a comment early on that I thought was kind of interesting, but I wanted to just kind of reiterate this, because you said your first property you bought was a 7-unit, not very big, right? Well, I always say, don't discredit your early efforts. My first one was a 4-unit, but I think that when you take the average person starting real estate and they hear, wow, a 4-unit or a 7-unit, they're like, wow, can I do that? Right. It's like when I really went in the apartment business, and the first deal I did was 11, And I never thought I'd do 200 units, but then I was doing 300 and 400 unit apartment deals. So,
Yeah.
you got to start somewhere. And that's what I always try to encourage people in my programs is you start somewhere and you grow. Your vision grows and you grow as a result of it.
Right.
So, but I think that's great. So what have been some of your largest challenges along the way in your growth from, just a small standard fix and flip or Airbnb to where you're at now and what you're doing now?
I think complacency, once you do well, you get kind of like, oh, now what? Right. You can get kind of lazy and complacent. And you need to find something within you to keep you going. So you don't just check out. I think that's been my biggest challenge. I'll do extremely well and then be like, all right, now what? And then so you backslide if you don't keep going, right? So one of the first things you learn from Tony is, constant, never-ending improvement, and that's one of the impressive things. He never backslid. So I think that's one of my biggest challenges. Yeah. Okay. And then the other one on, it's kind of a twin of that, like two sides of the same coin, is burnout.
Mm.
Burnout, and I think I mastered both of that finally. So yeah.
Let me ask you what your why is. Why do you do what you do today?
Oh boy. Why do I do what I do? I do what I do because I want to continue to grow and I feel good when I grow. I also have created visions for myself that are very compelling. And I meditate daily for at least an hour. And I really lock in what those visions are. And those visions are bigger than my current circumstances, even though my current circumstances are great. If I recognize, you need to have that balance between appreciation of what you have, absolutely joy, appreciation of what you have, and gratitude. And also have a desire for something better, right? So I think that's a nice tension to play with. So I play with that daily in my meditations for an hour. What does that look like? Because ultimately it's about being states. We know this. So the joy, for me, my values are very, very, very clear. And they say when your values are clear, your decisions are easy, right? So I know what my values are and I know it, and I create things. I actually create things to compel me to move forward. I invent things in my imagination, right? And then I watch to see where the magic of the universe transpires. And then I get excited about that. So I think synchronicity and being a co-creator of the divine, that sounds a little crazy, but I think because you're asking me to dig in a little bit, and everything's shifting all the time, to be a co-creator with God and to be the best human that I can be on this planet, in this space and time, that's probably my goal, right? And that what that translates to is, contribution, growth, learning, challenging. Because it feels good. It just feels good. It feels better than being lazy and complacent.
Yeah. Sounds like you have a heart for helping others, for being there for others.
That's a natural. That's like a genetic thing with me. Not everybody has that, but I have that. That's like a natural part of my makeup.
Yeah, good for you. That's awesome. What do you think your next big adventure is?
You know what? I love that question because I don't know. I'm going to see Joe Dispenza next week. February.
Love Joe
Yeah.
Dispenza.
Yeah, I'm going to go see him for the first time in Cancun. That's going to be my next adventure, right? And what that is, his whole thing is trust the unknown. And so my next big adventure, I'm going to the Commercial Academy. I'm jetting off to Orlando for a few days. And then literally I'm flying from Orlando to Cancun to see Joe for a week. My girlfriends have gone and it's been phenomenal. A lot of people in the Commercial Academy have gone. It's been phenomenal. And I've been doing his meditations, phenomenal. really game changer stuff. And so my next big adventure, I mean, I'm committed to investing in a commercial strip center, a retail property. I'm very committed to that. But what's coming in my direction are other opportunities. And so, I was asked, I'm doing a presentation before 250 investors, really, some people are way ahead of me next week. But I'm okay with that. Like, I don't need to be top dog. But as I was I was literally up till like 12:30 last night, finishing up my PowerPoint presentation. And
I know how that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then it was saying, what are your goals? And I was just like, oh, Jesus, I have been doing goals since I heard first Earl Nightingale say it, back in a million years ago. Say the goals. And I look at the end of the year, I didn't do a damn thing. But I did other things, because I've created a beautiful, amazing rendition of this life, but I don't know how it happened. It was just like, I set these goals and then God says, no, you're doing something else. And you need this lesson to learn. And so I just put, in my goals, I didn't say, I'm going to buy 5 houses. I'm going to buy, 10 retail. I didn't do that. I just said, you know what? I am going to meditate every day. I'm going to follow my practices. I'm going to invite magic into my life. I'm going to listen for God's guidance daily, and I'm going to move on it. I mean, that just sounds so radical because I know the goal setting people, like, no, you have to write your goal. I mean, this has like been emblazoned in my brain for 30 years. And I'm always writing goals and they never happen. But great things happen. I mean, I fall into this luxury home building thing, or I joined the commercial academy. So I think sometimes, they say, you write down your plans and God laughs.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt.
I'm really there now, I'm like, I want to be committed to life, giving, contributing, joyful, energetic being. I want to have beautiful energy, take care of my health. I've got my diet locked down. I've got my exercise program locked down. I've got my processes locked down. And I would just enjoy myself and see, like, God, what are we doing today? Yes, I have a big fat list of things to do, and I've got commitments. I've got several appointments today. But then, just give my best in every single situation, and then listen for guidance. And that sounds crazy, but it feels right.
Yeah.
It feels right to me at this point,
Well, I have to say that the comment you made, invite magic into your life, is very powerful. And I love that thought process. And with your permission, I'm going to steal that.
Well, I'm using that word on my presentation next week. I literally put it in the bullet point of goals, invite magic. But you're welcome to steal it because, I think we all would love to have a little more magic in our lives, right?
What's the commercial academy?
It's the J. Scott Shield Commercial Academy. I went to see him in 2010, but I was overloaded with short sales and short sale flips and buying real estate and residential. So I loved what he had to say. Fast forward, my girlfriend joined like 6 years ago, and she invited me a couple of years to join her. And I was like, I like this guy, he's great. So, but these guys are building cities and high rises. And at first I was so overwhelmed, but I kind of liked it because I'm like, wow, these guys are thinking way bigger than me. Kind of like you with your 200, 300s, so you fit right in. But it's a group of people, investors for sure, all walks of life, all over the country. And we're all basically investing in various styles of commercial distress assets, and it could be ground up development. It could be, infill or distressed shopping centers, and flipping them or keeping them for cash flow. And everybody has different styles. And I love it. It's just a great group. Everybody's been to Joe Dispenza, everybody's been to Tony Robbins, really like mindset, because you need mindset in this business. So
yeah. Hey, what would you leave, as we start to land this plane this morning, what would you leave investors with, and, a new investor, somebody thinking about getting started in the business, and you and I are, so far down the road, right? what would a final thought be that you'd leave those new investors coming into the business with today?
Absolutely commit yourself to learning.
Mm.
Commit yourself to learning. Now there are so many more resources. Before we had books. That's all we had was books and tapes, right? And if we were lucky, we had tapes, right? But now you've got podcasts all over the place. You've got all these successful investors laying out the red carpet and how to do it. Join an REI meetup, and then be aware of sharks. Because if you're young, you're new, you're a guppy, and there are sharks in this business. The more money, the bigger the sharks. So watch out for those. Trust your instincts and learn and learn. Find a great mentor, somebody that you can actually trust to give you good guidance. Now somebody's going to fleece you, and then also know your own genius. What is your own particular genius, and then work with that. And then just be persistent and set your intentions of what you want to create.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Well, listen, I greatly appreciate you being on today. If people want to get a hold of you, can you tell them how to do that?
The easiest way is probably through Facebook. I do have a YouTube channel, but Facebook would be Messenger, Ginger Crystal Faith. I'm all over social media, but the easiest way where I check personally would be Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here this morning. I'm going to move you out and say goodbye to my audience. If you want to hang around for a minute, you and I can say goodbye in a minute. Thanks for being here today.
Sounds great. Okay.
Hey, that was a great episode this morning. I was intrigued. That takes the fix and flip model, or the BRRRR model, to a whole nother level. And a couple of key points that Ginger talked about this morning. And I want you to think about the profitability margin on this with some caution, because she said you could go broke building custom homes, redeveloping. And so it is market specific and market driven, but the profitability margin, short term versus long term, is huge. And pay attention to that. And how does that work in your life? Is the risk versus the reward for you worth taking? And the other comment that she made this morning that I'm totally going to steal, and I think you should too, but what can you do today and moving forward to invite some magic into your life? Appreciate you being here. We're here every Saturday morning. Follow us on social media so you keep up with us going live and being here. But we'll be back next week with another great guest. Look forward to seeing you soon. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. If I can answer any questions or just catch up and network, let me know.